What's up, folks? This is Justin from Books, Bricks, and Boards. What do you get when you cross the system that wants to do everything with the setting that has a bit of everything? You get a good time. Today, we're going to be talking about Savage Rifts. Hey, it's me, Justin, again. Before we get too far into this video, if you enjoy my content, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, as that is the only way to get this content out to more viewers.
Inconceivable!
If you're looking for a group of like-minded gamers to have conversations and play games with, well, check out the Discord server, link in the description.
I think they're talking about us.
Lastly, if you want to support the channel in a financial way, consider a membership starting at $2 a month. These help the channel continue to do what we do. With all that out of the way, on with the show. Created by Kevin Siembieda under his Palladium Books label, Rifts was originally released in 1990 to much fanfare. A sign of the times, Rifts presented a bleak future with Terminator-esque Skelebats, dog boy bounty hunters, magic galore, and more psionics than you can imagine. The basic concept was, during World War III, so much potential psionic energy was released into the world as millions were killed that it awakened the latent magic ley lines that had been long dormant. In doing so, a series of rifts to other dimensions were also created, introducing all manner of DBs, dimensional beings, and generally turning the world into an odd mishmash of a post-apocalyptic reality with concepts that were previously presumed to be pure fiction. This created areas of high magic with the traditional fantasy fare, dragons, elves, dwarves, etc. One such area being cleverly named Tolkien, an obvious nod to its inspiration. There were other areas with dinosaurs, undead, aliens, creatures of mythology, and so on. Mixing this with the outposts of high-tech humanity, particularly the xenophobic coalition states, and you have the true kitchen sink campaign. With more than 35 Rifts world books, and growing, along with 15 Rifts dimension books, and a spin-off of sorts called Rifts Chaos Earth, there is a lot of world building to keep you busy reading if you want to learn it all. That said, the way that the dimensional rifts function, pulling in random pieces of other worlds, you have a great excuse to drop anything you want into your Rifts game. Sessions can range from high-tech cyber warfare to Lost World dino hunts and everything in between. The thing that ties it all together are these core ideas. 1. There are powerful forces. 2. These forces battle each other for power and resources. 3. The power balance is ever shifting. 4. Those caught in the middle better be able to handle themselves because charity is rare. This last bit is of particular note as Rifts allows players of a wide variety of range in power and ability, from being drug-enhanced juicers to mind-melting psychers to power suit piloting glitter boys to actual dragons. Needless to say, GMs can have their hands full balancing encounters for both the human scavengers and the dragon in the party. But then again, Rifts was about crazy fun, not balance. The Palladium system, dubbed the Megaverse, was fully compatible with their Palladium Fantasy, Ninjas and Super Spies, TMT and Other Strangeness, and other RPGs in the line, which allowed enterprising GMs to pull all sorts of material into their Rifts game without needing to reinvent the wheel. If you want to know more about the system of the Megaverse, check out my video on the subject on this card. For the short version, it plays a bit like a much more detailed and nuanced Advanced Dungeons & Dragons game, but with an odd choice of organization and layout, as well as some inconsistencies about rules interpretations across the different lines. It is still very playable, but will grate on players that expect a cleaner and more well-presented experience. This is where Savage Worlds comes into play. Savage Rifts. Back in 2015, Pinnacle Entertainment Group announced that they would be doing a Kickstarter for their own take on Rifts, using their own house system, Savage Worlds. Over the last 10 years since that announcement, the line has been refreshed and revised to cover the changes for Suede, and it has continued to grow with a large number of expansions, with the upcoming Europa and Foes of Europa being books 10, and 11 respectively. Additionally, there has been a screen, bennies, cards, standees, and more. Recently, a 4-book adventure box set in the Kansas West titled Terror on the Dark Frontier. The whole thing is pretty incredible, as Kevin Siembieda has been hesitant to license his work in the past, probably due to some degree of concern about watering down his vision, as well as bad experiences when partnering on his Robotech Kickstarter. This is an area where Savage Worlds has a beneficial fit for Rifts, as most of the rules to accommodate Kevin's vision are baked into the system naturally. Savage Worlds was built to handle psionics, magic, vehicles, high-tech and low-tech, dragons and robots. Furthermore, Suede is very good at mixing different power levels in a single group, making that aspect somewhat less daunting for the GM. The big question marks many had going in were, how are you going to handle mega damage, and will I be able to play a dragon? Happily, both answers were a resounding yes. Mega Damage adopts the heavy weapon and heavy armor rules of Suede, i.e., you need a heavy weapon to damage heavy armor. Further, to represent the devastating effects of mega damage to a normie, any wounds inflicted thereby will be gritty wounds, requiring a roll on the injury table. Simple, effective, and largely captures the spirit of mega damage from the original game. As for the matter of iconic characters, I think they knocked it out of the park. In the core player book, the Tomorrow Legion's Player's Guide, there are 12 iconic frameworks which are layered over the traditional Suede creation process. These include Burster, Combat Cyborg, Crazy, Cyber Knight, Dragon Hatchling, Glitter Boy, Juicer, Leyline Walker, Mars, Mind Melter, Mystic, and Techno Wizard. The Mars framework, an acronym for Mercenary, Adventurers, Rogues, and Scholars, itself has 12 different customizable packages, covering all manner of different lower-powered options, from cyberdocs to power armor pilots. The Mars characters also get to roll on the fortune and glory tables to further customize your hero, as well as taking 4 advances, making them seasoned right out of the gate. This will help compensate for their lack of superpowered abilities. All characters also roll on the hero's journey to further differentiate them from the others. Keep in mind, with the additional releases, many new classes and Mars packages have been added, with each one lovingly created to capture the iconic Rifts experience. The Player's Guide also adds 10 new races, while allowing for any others you already have access to. Those races are the Altara, Denor, Dogboy with breed bonuses, Fanati, Grackltooth, Linstriel, Psystalker, Quickflex, Simvan, and Tremador. To fully represent their capabilities, Savage Rifts also provides numerous edges, mega power modifiers, gear and vehicles, and again, this is just talking about the Player's Guide. There are lists of setting rules, including new ones like Blaze of Glory, allowing dying heroes to go out with a bang. Aside from the Player's Guide, the Savage Foes of North America and Savage Rifts GM guides round out the core books, giving great advice on the history of the setting, fantastic adversaries to battle, and sandboxes to battle in. From raiders to demons and vampires to skelebots, you have more than enough to keep you going, keeping in mind all of your other monsters have a place in Rifts as well. One area that was met with mixed reactions was the introduction of the Tomorrow Legion. Savage Rifts, unlike other variations, has a baseline assumption of some level of affiliation with the Tomorrow Legion, a loosely defined group of outcasts and survivors located in Castle Refuge, in northern Arkansas, just south of Branson. The nice thing about this addition is it gives the party a common bond and affiliation, sometimes a trick with this setting. The most common complaint I see is that it establishes a clear good guy group, which has never been so clear-cut before in Rifts, having always offered more shades of gray in the past. Personally, I think the idea of Cyber Knights living in a castle built by dwarves not far from Silver Dollar City is very cool. But if you don't like it, nothing says you must abide by this fluff. As a matter of fact, with the huge library of original Rifts lore available and the simplicity of conversion to Suede, Savage Rifts is probably the single most flexible game and system combo ever printed. Savage Rifts Flip Through Review. Starting with Book 1, this is included in the Rifts box set. This is the Tomorrow Legion's Player's Guide. This has all the player options and the setting rules that you're going to need to play Rifts in Savage Worlds. So we'll flip through this, and you get some great artwork, of course, because this is still Rifts, even if it's in Savage Worlds. You do see some repeats of the same art throughout the books, but it's not egregious. There's one of the power suits. This is Castle Refuge, where the Tomorrow Legion resides. And here is the character creation summary. This might be a bit controversial for Savage Worlds players, as it does add another layer of process to character creation. So you start with choosing your race, just like in any other Savage Worlds game, but then you choose your iconic framework, and as you're going to see is when we get to that part, the iconic frameworks add quite a bit of complexity to the character. Then you're going to get to roll on your hero's journey and fortune and glory rolls if you're a Mars character. You're going to have your hindrances just like you do in normal Savage Worlds. You're going to have your attributes just like normal Savage Worlds, your skills, your derived statistics, your edges. All of that is similar to normal Savage Worlds rules, excepting for some of the setting rules that allow you to take more complex edges right out of the gate. But adding that iconic framework and the hero's journey rolls does create a little bit more time involved and a lot more stuff that you have to put on your character sheet. And this is how the layout works for the different iconic frameworks. This is the Burster, and you'll see you get some fluff about what the Burster is. Tells you what you get to roll on for the hero's journey rolls, and then it starts talking about how to build a Burster. And you'll see on some of these you get a lot of special abilities and bonuses. You have to write all of these down or print them off if you have the PDF, but it is basically 2 full pages. So if that sounds like something you don't want to do, that is going to be something that is baked into the Rifts system. Now, some iconic frameworks are more cumbersome than others, but just keep that in mind. Then you got the Combat Cyborg, the Crazy, the Cyber Knight with their Psi Energy swords. You got the Dragon, the Glitter Boy with their huge power armor and its glaze which protects it from lasers. The Juicer, they trade their life expectancy for superpowers with the cocktail of drugs that they are put on. Better to burn out than fade away, right? Ley line walkers, they take advantage of the magical ley lines. You've got all the Mars packages, the Body Fixer Cyberdoc, the City Rat, the Headhunter Techno Warrior, the Merc Soldier, the Operator, the Personal Concept option, that is going to be one where you build your own Mars background. The Power Armor Ace, the Psi Operator, the Robot Vehicle Ace, the Rogue Scholar, the Vagabond, the Wilderness Scout. And you have your Mars Fortune and Glory tables. And that's where you're going to get some special bonuses that you don't get to choose. You roll for them and you see what you get. And some of them are really good. You have your Mind Melter, the Mystic, the Techno Wizard, and then you get some different upgrades for the Techno Wizard, and we get into the different races. There's your Altara, your Denora, your Dog Boy, all the different breeds that you can choose. the Finati, the Grackltooth, the Lindsreel, the Psystalker, the Quickflex, the Simvan, and the Tremador. You get a bunch of different edges for the different iconics, and you get a bunch of equipment. There's some adjustments to power. There's all sorts of gear and weapons, setting rules. There are some suggestions about how to build a party and play in Rifts. All of these are the different Hero's Journey tables collected for you in the back. But that is just book 1. And now we have book 2. This is the Game Master's Handbook. This is going to, once again, have that great Rifts artwork, but it's going to cover running a Rifts campaign. Gives you a lot of information about the world that this is set in. And as we get through that, all of the different sections about the different history and the different areas and regions of the world. A little bit about the Tomorrow Legion and what its place in the world is. A nice layout of the Castle Refuge itself. Talks about the different affiliation powers, the coalition states, the Federation of Magic. Those are the 2 major power players. And then it gets right into running Savage Rifts, all the different tropes that are involved and the different types of games you can play with it. Because Savage Rifts has so many distinct areas, you could play just a flat-out cyber western game if you wanted to, or just a dinosaur hunting game if you wanted to, or a vampire game if you wanted to. But the power of Rifts is in combining these into different Adventure of the Week style games. And then there's a whole section of encounter tables, which I love. There's lots of stuff about how the rifts work, how to generate random rifts and what might come out of those rifts, generating random settlements and so on and so forth. All sorts of good information in here. This is book 2 of Savage Rifts. Book 3 is the Savage Foes of North America. This is the bestiary book for Rifts, the first bestiary book. And you're going to get to see some nasty dudes in here. And of course, you're going to get some great artwork. It breaks it down into some of the foes that you'll find in specific regions, like the different soldiers of the Coalition that you might bump into. The Coalition sends out these patrols to take care of dimensional beings and unregistered magic users. There's the Skelebot, my favorite. And so good chance that you could run into a group of them if you're traveling anywhere near the borders of the Coalition states. Then you have the Federation of Magic and some of the major players there, as well as some of the common things that you would run into if you're traveling along those borders. They're going to be more fantasy based, of course. Magic and technology, while it can be mixed, there are rules which limit how much tech you can have if you're also magical. It's played out by strain in the rules. And then you get like Atlantis and the Splugorth Slavers. This was a famous cover of one of the earlier books, not this exactly, but something similar with these blind slaves and the Splugorth in the background. They are basically aliens that have taken over the risen Atlantis, and they collect slaves from all around and try to enslave the entire world. What a picture there, right? Different folks that you'd see in urban encounters. Then some of the iconic frameworks created as enemies. One of the things that always annoyed me about original Rifts was I had to roll up all of the enemies. There wasn't really a generic version. Made it harder on the GM. Don't have to do that here. And then some of the weird monsters. The Broadkill, Fury Beetles, Flame Wind Dragons, Gargoyles, Simvans, Wild Monsters, Witchlings. And throughout all the DM style books, you get some Savage Tales. There were some in the GM's handbook too. And then you get some random monster creation tables in the back here. But that is book 3. And all 3 of those that I just went over are in this box. This box also has a nice poster map of the United States of Rift. And on the back, it has an upside down, now it's right side up, poster of Castle Refuge and its different levels. Very handy if you're going to run a Rifts game. But that's not all. It also came with a Riftified GM screen. And that screen came with a starter adventure. In here, you also get some dice and you get some Benny tokens. So, very good value if you're wanting to start Savage Rifts, if you can find one. And here we have book 4, Arcana and Mysticism. This is going to cover your spellcasters and your psionists and those things that they would interact with. It's going to give you more iconic frameworks. It's going to give you more Mars archetypes. So we'll bounce right into this book, kind of see an idea of what all is in here. You get some foes, get some GM suggestions, you get some details on the Federation of Magic and the Magic Zone, as well as the Spirit West. Of course, great art. For iconic frameworks, you get the Dragon Juicer. So not only can you be a dragon, but you can be a dragon that is subject to the cocktail of drugs that the juicer is. Very cool. The Elemental Fusionist, the Nega Psychic, the Zapper, and then you get your Mars backgrounds. You got the Battle Magus, the Combat Mage, the High Magus, the Lord Magus, the Psi Druid, the Psi Slinger, the Psi Warrior, the Shaman, the Spirit Warrior. And then for new races, you get the Cactus People, Dwarves, Elves, Orcs, Psi Ghosts, Vronwar. You get a bunch of new edges, all very affiliated with magical qualities. Get some new gear, armor. Let's flip past here. Get some new details on regions that weren't covered very much in the older or the other books. So this is the Spirit West. So this is kind of the cowboy setting I was talking about earlier. You can see through this rift, you've got buffalo herd coming through. And then you've got the Federation of Magic. Talks a little bit about what's happened since Tolkien was destroyed. Whole chapter on the Spirit West. Spirit West has cowboys, but it also has a lot of Native American vibes to it. Very cool. The Magic Zone. Federation of Magic, whole chapter on the Federation. Let's flip through this, get back to some Tolkien encounters. Arcane friends and enemies. Here we go. Have some pre-made NPCs. As you can see, they have large stat blocks because they've got lots of magic powers and things. And then you get some stat blocks for generic versions of the iconics that were introduced in this book. So again, you don't have to create a whole character to have an enemy. And then you get some monsters, the Bloodhawk, the Dark Behemoth, the Devil, the Devil Unicorn, Fairy Folk, Fiends, Forest Wardens, Golems, Psy Goblins, Rakasha, Shadow Beasts, Shadelings, Worm Wraiths. So this dude is made up of a pile of worms, and he chose to be a gunslinger. Interesting. That is Arcana and Mysticism. This is book 5. It's called Blood and Banes. It covers the vampire kingdoms out in New Mexico area, and it's going to give you plot point campaigns for that area, iconics, races, all the stuff that you got from the others. Most of these other books will focus on specific regions, and it gives you a good mix of character options, world building, and enemies to fight. For the frameworks, we get the Knight of the White Rose. Very cool. The Necromancer. Shifters. Heroic Vampires. The Werecats. And then you get the Mars archetypes. You got the Barbarian, Eco-Wizard, the Dinosaur Hunter, the Vampire Hunter. And some new races, the Centaur, the Sasquatch. Very cool. New edges, just like in all the other books, you get edges associated with these. New equipment and gear, vehicles, that kind of thing. Some water pistols in there to squirt vampires with holy water, a la the Lost Boys. Goes through the different regions of the vampire kingdoms. How the Tomorrow Legion plays into this. Some plot point campaigns, more regions. Up here, Minnesota, which is where Palladium is located, I believe. The Mutant Lands. By the way, how cool is that? Mutant Lands encounters. All these different regions will have suggestions on what kind of encounters you might have in them. Calgary, so you're getting up into Canada now. Enemies throughout there. The desert. Different plot point campaign ideas. And again, at the end, allies and adversaries. You start with the NPC options, and then you get the monsters, chupacabras, demon animals, dinosaurs. Go down into Florida and hunt some dinosaurs. Entities, mummies, phantom wolves, vampire masters, secondary vampires, vampire familiars, werewolves, wendigos, and so on and so forth. That is Blood and Banes. Book 6 is the Empires of Humanity. This is going to cover the coalition states, the Pecos Empire, Free Quebec. This is the coalition here. They're typically seen as the bad guys, and in most ways they are. They are anti anything that's not human, but they did save large portions of humanity, so there is a little bit of gray area, but largely, if you're dealing with the coalition, they're the bad guys. So you got some character options, creating your own construct. That's cool. These are all creating your own robotic construct here. Lots of details on that. So these human areas are going to be the areas with the highest level of tech still. So here's some Mars options. The Rifts Control Study Group Scientist, the Commando, the Cowboy, the EDO Specialist, that would be Explosives Ordnance Disposal. You got the Gunslinger, the Intel Operative. You got the Momand Headhunter, which is an iconic. It is not part of the Mars package. And then you got some new races, mutant animals, bats, rats, and cats. Psi-X aliens. Then you get your edges and hindrances. Got some stuff to do with cowboys here because this covers the Pecos Empire. New gear, including a lot of robots and body armor and stuff, power armor, new weapons, new vehicles. The gear section of this book is particularly interesting because of the fact that the coalition states have high-tech gear. Then you get the Gazetteer, tells you how to run a human-based campaign. Got some cool relics, talking about the tech that survived World War III. Goes over the different regions. Coalition states have different areas. They have one in Missouri, they have one in Chicago area, they have one up in Minnesota. So they cover a lot of the Midwest, but they're all over the place. And they have patrols all over the place. So here's the 5 states of the coalition: Chi-Town, which is Chicago, Ironheart, Missouri, El Dorado, and Lone Star. Then there's territories. The Domain of Man, that's going to be Free Quebec, and then the Pecos Empire. There's Glitter Boy, this pilot. And just like the others, there is a section in the back that's going to be creating some enemies for you with the iconics introduced here, as well as just some regular monsters to add to your games. Lots and lots of humanoid or human enemies here, because that's largely what you're going to see in a coalition or Free Quebec or Pecos Empire campaign. This is book 7. It's the only one that is a softback. This is the Tomorrow Legion Field Manual. I won't do as much flipping with this because it's harder to do with a soft cover, but it does introduce the bounty hunter for Mars, several different dragon subtypes. It has some adventures in there. It still has some adversaries and foes to add to the game. But then it also has a section, one of the adventures is Murderthon, which is covering the sports that are using the juicers. So you think you take the Rift's equivalent of the Captain America super serum and you juice these guys up until they're about to explode, and then you have them compete in various games for the entertainment of the masses. And that's what Murderthon is. So, fine book. Wish it was a hardback. And that's all I'm going to say about that one. And now we're on book 8, Atlantis and the Demon Seas. And this is definitely a callback piece of art, because there was a very famous cover of one of the early Rifts expansions that had a Splurgoth on one of these levitating machines with the sightless slaves on it. And they're a little more covered up in this image than they were in the original. That's probably okay. So this is going to cover Atlantis, which is newly risen from the bottom of the sea, and the Splurgoths that took it over. So you're going to have Atlantis, the Demon Seas, Lemuria, and then the humanity it sees. You're going to have a nice plot point campaign for that area. You're going to get a bestiary. You're going to get some good character options. Got several iconic frameworks here. So let's flip to those. You got Bioborgs. That's an image for you. You got Stone Masters. Tattooed Warriors. Undead Slayers. Then you get some Mars editions as well. The Atlantean Nomads, the Lemurian Bird Warriors, Lemurian Serpent Hunters, Ocean Wizards, Sea Druids, Sea Inquisitors. Then you get into the races, the Amphibs, the Haroons, the Hitani, the Hydians, the Lemurians, the Natil, the Ogres, the Rulians, the Sea Titans, the True Atlanteans, and the Zembak. You get your regular extra edges and hindrances and all that stuff that are associated with the new character options. You get all the new gear. This is going to be largely Splurgoth and sea-related gear and weapons, things of that nature, because we're talking about Atlantis after all. I'm going to flip through all this. Bio-wizardry. So biotechnology is kind of an interesting concept from Rifts, and it's basically taking symbiotes and attaching them to creatures to give them powers similar to what a piece of technology might otherwise provide. But in the end of the day, you still have another living creature attached to you. It's cool as a concept, and I think that it would work well in a lot of games. There's a nice big monster getting ready to eat that boat, unaware of its presence. Nice section on how to run an Atlantean-style campaign. We're going to flip through that. Some Splurgoth weapons there. And you get into all of the different regions, large swaths of area covering Atlantis. Get all of the NPCs and the monsters. This one, it breaks it down a little bit different than the prior books. The NPCs and monsters are with each region rather than just in the back. There's the Demon Seas. Some encounter tables. Vehicles. Monsters. Specific locations. Humanity at sea. So you got like an aircraft carrier there. Encounters. Coalition Navy details. And then a generic bestiary at the end. Though a lot of what you're going to use is going to be in the individual region area 2 of the book. Octo Dragons, Storm Riders. And there you have Atlantis and the Demon Seas. And this is book 9. This is the last of the official hardback books that have been released as of the time of this video. There is another book that has been released as a PDF, but I'm just covering the physical copies right now. Maybe when that new one comes out, Shane will send me a copy and I'll review that. As a note, everything that I'm going over today, I paid for out of my pocket. I also bought PDFs of everything here because I am a completionist and it helps me to study the material. So, this is the Land of a Thousand Islands. This covers South America. No, it's not the Land of a Thousand Lakes. It is the Land of a Thousand Islands. Land of a Thousand Lakes would be Minnesota, unless I'm mistaken. So you've got kind of an Aztec Empire vibe going on here, combined with some alien tech. And you're going to get some character options, some new frameworks, races, edges, just like in the others. You're going to cover the Northern Isles, the Islands of Mystery, the Silver River Republics, and the Western Spine, as well as the Megaversal Legion. There's a plot point campaign and then a bestiary in the back. So for frameworks, you get the Amazon Huntress, the Anti-Monster. There's your Frankenstein Anti-Monster there. The Biomancer Gene Mage. Kind of looks like Poison Ivy. The Demigod. And has a whole section on the concept of pantheons of gods from mythology coming back to inhabit the world and kind of how you can create members of that pantheon. The Gizmoteer, the Line Maker. Speaking of the Nazca lines, there's the Rune Warrior. And here are some extra Mars backgrounds: the Blood Rider, the Duelist, the Falem Battlemaster, the Mandan Monster Hunter, the Megaversal Trooper, the Priest. You got some new races: the Amahi, the Arhans. Oh, I'm sorry, that's Archons. Yep, my bad. The Falem, the Felinoids, the Jungle Elves, the Arhold, the Lizard Folk, the Mutant Chondroid. Okay, yeah, he's a condor. That's cool. The Mutant Neo-Humans, the Mutant Serpentoids, and the Jahi. So, as you flip through this, you're going to get your regular array of additional edges and powers and that kind of stuff. You're going to get some new gear specific to your jungle adventures that you're going to have down in the South American area of the world. Garaleos, if you're watching this video, go ahead and comment and tell me what you would like to see of South America portrayed in Rifts, and I'll search the book and see if I can find that it is covered here, man. So then we've got the different regions. Got a Conquistador power armor there. We're going to flip past some of this. This is largely just regional information. That's cool. Get lots of different ideas for games in here. And you get some technology in the jungle there. This is one of the thicker entries into the books. the Western Spine, New Peru, Nazca, the Archon Freehold, and you get the Megaversal Legion. Kind of gives another option for character creation in South America, very far from the Tomorrow Legion. And then you get your plot point campaigns at the end, as well as a nice bestiary. And we're not going to go too far into that because this video is going to be long enough as it is, but that is the Land of a Thousand Islands. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on this like I did on the other books, but this is all from the Terror on the Dark Prairie box set. So I got this for 40 bucks. Got it from an online retailer, and it's got 4 books. It's got a ton of pawns, and it's got a whole bunch of maps. I have not opened these up. I'm not going to do that here right now, but I've seen the images because I've got the PDF too, which I also bought, and there's a lot of good material for GMs in here. One of the cool things, so this is a list of all of the different pawns that you get in this box set, 75 of them total, because there's multiple of some. You get a wired gunslinger, a cowboy, a cyber slinger, a preacher, a totem warrior, a paradox shaman, a side slinger, a mining borg, Aaron Tarn, Javier Darden, Annika, Esme Black, Winslow Thorpe, cyber slinger, first apocalyptic cavalry soldier, Comanche tech warrior, Comanche police chief, Writhe, Null, Infested, Slithering Swarm, Brockna, Two-Faced Star People, Wormwraith, Black Fairy, Grig Leaper, Elemental Fusionist, Spirit Monster, Oberos Slitherer, Cooper Free Dog Boy, Gwilac, Grappler, Avatar of Mukgek, Black Winged Monster Man, a CS Mark 9 EPC, and a Grave Leech. I'm going to show you the Mark 9 EPC because looking at that, you can tell this is a massive pawn, and you've seen this guy in many pieces of Rift's art, and it's going to have a real 3D feel to it because it does cover those dimensions when you put it all together. So I wanted to show you that. Now you notice that some of those were named characters, but you could use them as generics in your game too. Get some cards for some magical items. Get a player's handbook with some new character options in it. So gonna get some extra equipment, fetish weapons. Not a big book. Got the campaign book, which is the big part of it. This is going to cover the Kansas area of the world. These are all softbound. The region guide, this is going to cover specific places in that Kansas area I was talking about. And then you get a little creature manual, a monster manual for the area as well. Cover black fairies and spirit monsters, worm wraiths, worm behemoths, so on and so forth. So this is like a full Rifts campaign in a box. You still have to have the core books to run it proper, the core Rifts books and the core Savage Worlds book. You got to have the Suede core book for this stuff to work. But if you have all that, this is a nice addition. It's going to make your job as a GM much easier. And like I said, 40 bucks, you get a lot of stuff in this box for $40. So that is everything released for Savage Rifts, other than there are some archetype cards and some other pawns that were separate that I haven't bought. I do have the PDF versions of those pawns, but I didn't buy the physical packs when they were out. So that is the Savage Rifts line as it stands right now. And now, the good and the bad. First, the good. Number 1, premium kitchen sink. This is the ultimate kitchen sink campaign. It makes more sense as a kitchen sink campaign than any other one that I've ever looked at. And there are lots of games that have tried to do this, but Rifts got it right. Rifts knows how to do this, and everything else feels like a cheap knockoff as compared to Rifts when it comes to throwing everything you could imagine into one setting. That combined with the great rule set that was built for doing everything, and this is an incredible combo. Number 2, power player's dream. Rifts is the ultimate setting for that guy that wants to have the uber powered character all the time. You know, the guy that annoys you in all of your D&D campaigns, the min-maxer that creates the nigh unkillable character and then just makes it miserable for everyone else at the table. Rifts is the answer to that, because the setting expects you to do that, and there are plenty of evil options to put them in check if need be, but largely they just get to be that powerful character that they've always wanted to be. They just know that they have other powerful forces working against them. So for a power player, Rifts is the bomb. Number 3, well supported. So as I said, soon there will be 11 official full book releases, plus you've got the box set, all the pawns, the screen, all of that stuff is the Savage Rifts line, as well as the first edition of that line, which has been redone for this revised edition. It's been going for over 10 years now. I don't expect that to go away anytime soon. I hope not. And then you've also, on top of that, you've got the dozens of different world books that Kevin Siembieda at Palladium has put out. And you know me, converting for Savage Worlds is a trivial matter. There's nothing to it. So taking information from the original Rifts line that you want to use in your Savage Rifts campaign, not a problem. So if you want to use the Rifts Japan World Book and you want your characters to go to Japan, have at it. It's going to be easy. Buy some of those very efficiently costed Rifts original line books and go to town. They're going to give you lots of great ideas, but you can play them in a system you're more comfortable with. Now for the bad. Number 1, chaos. The Savage Rifts system really leans into the original Rifts. Balance is not a thing. You can have your dragon in the same party that you have your scientist. And the same thing that's going to create a challenge for a scientist is going to be no challenge for a dragon. And the thing that would be a challenge for a dragon is going to melt the scientist with but a look. So there's chaos. I mean, it's just all over the place, and that's what it's meant to be. But if that's not something you're comfortable running a game in or playing in, you need to know that up front. This is not meant to be a by the books, everybody is going to have the same opportunity in every aspect of the game. No, this is going to be one of those games where the scientist is going to get to shine, but it's going to be in doing his sciencey things. The dragon is going to get to shine in combat, but he's also going to be a huge liability for the group many times because the coalition wants him dead and the Federation wants to enslave him. So what's a dragon to do? Number 2, added complexity. The character creation process in Savage Worlds is already a little bit time consuming compared to some of the other games that you'll be playing. When you add the iconic frameworks, the hero's journey rolls, the fortune and glory rolls, if you're a Mars character, you get 4 advances right out of the gate. It just adds a lot more to that. Those iconic frameworks in particular, sometimes there's 2 to 3 pages of special abilities that you're going to need to know or write down or print off so that you know what your character can and cannot do. That adds a lot to the character creation process. And as a GM, it creates a lot of areas where you need to be somewhat familiar with these so that you can keep your characters in check a little bit and also make sure that they're able to take advantage of all the key features of their iconic framework. So the complexity added by Savage Rifts is not a minimal thing. There's quite a bit to it. Number 3, Lore Dump. This setting has been in continuous production since 1990. Yeah, 1990. Kevin has created a metric ton of stuff for this game. The Rifter magazine has created more and more to add to that. If you are the type of game master or player that has to know absolutely everything that is canon for the setting, well, this one is going to melt your brain. The idea of rifts is that anything can happen. So you're not breaking canon when you introduce something new into the game because rifts are popping up and disappearing all of the time. It's okay. But if you want to be the one that has the official answer for every particular aspect of the world, it's going to be a whole lot on your plate, and you're going to lose that crazy, just go with the flow nature of rifts, and I don't think it's going to be as fun. So keep that in mind. Summary. Savage Rifts is that rare case where the original is outdone by the remake, for me at least. As a kid, we pored over the beautifully drawn art in those books, but almost always ended up moving the ideas to a different system with better results. Savage Rifts, in my mind, delivers upon the promise of the original Rifts, a game where anything is possible and everything is deadly. Looking for a setting where you can put all of your Swayed companions to use at once? Look no further. This one delivers the Savage Worlds experience in full like no other, while also delivering a very playable form of rifts like never before. For me, the Megaverse is the Swayedverse. Look at those absolute legends. Keith Simone, Dengar the Mighty, Jook, Blue Rose Lion, Agile Monk, Bjorn, I Am Not Tim, and Mike the Hammer. Special thanks to Pralinor, Acine Dean, and Steve Grodzicki. There you have it. That's my take on Savage Rifts. What's yours? Tell me about it in the comments. Do you want to see me cover the new books as they come out? Let me know. If you do, I'll reach out to Shane and see if he'd like to send me some copies so that we can do that whenever the print copies come out. Tell me about what you like or dislike about Rifts. Tell me about whether you would give Savage Rifts a try. I'm looking forward to having those conversations and many more. And until next time, this has been Justin with Books, Bricks, and Boards. Good gaming, and God bless.